Well, howdy y'all, Handy Redneck here. It's the 7th of May, 2019, right around 7 p.m. at night, and it's about 73 degrees out. But I ain't made a video in a couple of days, and since today's been a relatively warm and dry day, I figured we'd do a quick Yarden update. As always, we start up here on the porch. Um, our giant marigolds is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We got a bunch more on the other side of the porch that I need to get planted out. Our turmeric and ginger here, I've been checking in on it. It's getting ready to sprout. That tomato we started from a start a little while back, from that sucker. Here it is, still in its pod. It's rooting out pretty nice. Our thyme, we got thyme in here, and rosemary, and then marjoram, and our what is it? Strawberry spinach and onions. And this balcony box is all doing pretty good. Over here we've got our sweet peas, and I'm pretty sure these are carrots. Nope, they're dill. They're starting to get that dill smell. So these are some dill weed that volunteered up from last year. That they're going nice. We got our peas up, and they've been blooming and whatnot. So as you can see, hopefully the bees is getting up here and getting them. Our from seed avocado tree, as you can see, it's got leaves coming out, and it's got leaves coming out all over the place. It's really loving the weather. It is leafing and branching out. Gangbusters. Look at those. Look at those leaves. Look at those leaves. Look at those leaves. Look at it. Look at those leaves. Look at those leaves. Look at those leaves. It's just going nuts. Down here, our two mangoes. Every so often they go back in the house if it's going to get below 50 degrees overnight. They'll go inside and get taken care of. Our bucket tomatoes are starting to take off. All but these. These are our Brad's Atomic Grape. I grew them last year and got no tomatoes off of them, and I'm hoping this year we have better luck. But every other tomato variety we've got going seems to be looking pretty good. Yeah, the kiwi vine, I cut back some of the vines and showed you the other day that we was going to try to root them out. Well, today was hot enough that they wilted. Yeah, they're still wet, so I ain't too concerned about this little bit of wilt. I'm hoping that they'll just go ahead and produce roots, and we'll get new shoots coming up off of them later. Our chamomile is almost 6 inches tall. Mixed in with it, we got some more of that spinach, that strawberry spinach. Our echinacea, as you can see, they're getting more and more leaves on them, so hopefully they'll do good. Our parsley that overwintered, it's doing great. I come out just about every day and pick off a couple of leaves and eat them straight up. These are the other marigolds and dandelions that we got to get planted out here pretty soon. They're getting root bound, especially these bigger ones here. But something that's one of the two moringas is starting to leaf out, so that's awesome. Up here we got the mulberries. I don't know if you can see the mulberries or not. The tree is covered in mulberries this year, so hopefully we get more than 2 or 3 before the birds get them. Something I just now noticed is right behind this mulberry tree is a walnut tree, and if you look right there, that walnut tree's got walnuts starting on it. Whoop, whoop. This will be the second year it's had walnuts, so walnut tree don't normally start producing until it's 15 to 20 years old. This is a black walnut, started from seed, and so it's good to see that it's enjoying its life and producing walnuts. Like I say, it's getting warmer out finally, so we'll see what's going on. It looks like one of these pecans, this here's a pecan, it looks like it's flowered out and might have a pecan or two on it too. This would be a first year for it if that's an actual pecan. So that's exciting. Down here by the house, this is our lemon balm. It was started by seed about 3 years ago now, and as you can see, it's slowly spreading every year and getting bigger and better. In amongst it is a poke salad plant. That's one we dropped a seed on just to see if we could get it to come up, and there it is. Here's our first batch of potatoes. These outer ones are the purple magic mollies, and then these in here is a white one that I had that just started to go to sprout, so I planted it. Same here, we had 3 of the magic molly purples come up, and then I tossed a couple of white ones that were starting to sprout in amongst it. Here's our carrots. They're still chugging along. They're a little bit slow, but they're chugging along. Well, I did today come out and feed all the buckets and raised gardens with some all-purpose vegetable and all-purpose feed. So I watered that in a little bit to hopefully give these guys a jump start. Here's more of our Magic Molly purple potatoes in one of our tater towers. We got a slow one here. He is coming up, but he is slow. Our cucumbers are finally starting to leaf back out and take off a little bit. Some of our yard-long asparagus beans in a bucket, they're starting to take off. The fourth Magic Molly potato bed, as you can see, in this one too, we got a slow starter. So once the slow starters in these 2 beds get to be about 6 inches tall, I'll backfill with some more dirt, because I don't know if you can see it or not. Let's see if we can get down here on this stem right here. If you can see, there's little hairs sticking off this stem, and those will, in theory, once they're covered in dirt, turn into more roots, and some of those roots will produce tubers or potatoes and some won't. Over here we got our pumpkins. They're starting to go pretty good. They too got fed. One of the earlier ones is getting ready to bloom. We're just going to let them go. New addition to this part of the yard is set a bird bath out here. We got the bird feeder right over there. They can come get a drink and take a bath. That's going to require weekly maintenance, keeping it clean and everything, but that's alright. We also added another hummingbird feeder out here, so they can come out and get a sip there. Our yellow straight neck squash, zucchinis, we got 3 buckets of them, and they all look about like that. So they're doing quite well. And like I said, I come out and fed everything today, except these sweet taters over here. The purple Molokai sweet taters. They're trucking on. They like hot weather, but we'll get them fed up too. The thing about feeding is now that we're fertilizing and feeding a little bit, we're going to do it about once every month, real light, just to give them a little boost. As you can see, our onions is up, doing pretty good. These tomatoes over here are the ones that we set out way early, and as you can see, they're greening out and starting to get ready to shoot up. This here is one of our Arkansas Traveler tomatoes, and we're being careful and watching out, because if you look here, it's trying to bloom, and we don't want it to bloom yet. So we're picking those blooms off as we find them, because we want these plants to grow taller. You know, we don't want them to actually start producing fruits until they're at least 2 to 3 feet tall. So, you know, we get in there and we pick off some of those blooms, so they put more energy to growing. Down here, these are supposedly Cherokee purples, and if you look, we're trying to keep the blooms off of them too, because we don't want them to bloom until they get bigger. Yes, we're cutting into an early harvest, but we're looking for a better harvest later. Here's our loofah gourds. You know, they're looking pretty good. It won't be too much longer until we have to get out here for the gourds and the other squashes and whatnot, and wrap them with some aluminum foil to prevent them getting ate up by the squash vine borers. Here's the beet bed. You know, it's moving slow, but it's still moving. You know, there's the celery and the golden beets, and over here we got some okra growing. The buckwheat we planted out here, look at that. It's tiny, but it's already blooming. It's only been out here for a little over a month. You know, some of the tomatoes out here are starting to jump a little bit. We've got our winter or butternut squash. You know, they're starting to, the ones that we transplanted out, they're starting to leaf out again. Well, I did drop a couple of seeds in between them. As you can see, those that were direct seeded are doing better than the transplants. So here's some more of the yellow squash. More of the yellow squash up here. You know, it's all doing good in the buckets. Over here we got corn, beans, and cantaloupe. Again, this corn is part of the reason I fed up everything today. You know, it looks like there's a little bit of a nitrogen deficiency in this soil that we got, and even though the beans are nitrogen fixing, I don't think the beans are producing enough nitrogen for the corn right now. So we went ahead and fed that some nitrogen rich fertilizers to get it going good. Over here are our giant Mongolian sunflowers. A couple of them are good 18 inches tall already, but down amongst them as well, we've got purple hull beans, and we got some watermelons that finally sprouted. So we might get some of those. Something exciting to talk about here right now is if you look up here, this apple tree, you can see the apples. There's a couple of little ones there, but we got 4 or 5 up here, almost as big as the tip of my thumb already. So, there's a couple more up here, So, I'm hoping we get 2 or 3 apples to eat up this year. Then over here with the hardy kiwi, also known as the Jacob's hardy kiwi. It's a cold tolerant variety. If we can get in here and look, I don't know if we can see it or not. Up in here, it's got big buds on it that are getting ready to bloom. So there's at least half a dozen to a dozen big blooms, maybe a couple more on it. I don't know if we'll get any kiwi berries off of it this year or not, because if memory serves, they're not self-fertile, so they need a second plant to fertilize them. That's another reason we're trying to get those vines going, so we can get more plants. I think we just found us a vole or a mouse or something. We got a little varmint over here amongst all the mixed up craziness here. We got some more poke salad going. As you can see, we got the mustard and kale greens blooming. We come out here, the wild blueberries that ain't wild no more are absolutely loaded with little blueberries. I say they're wild because these were planted by bird poop, and we just work with them and keep them going, so they're doing pretty good. Over here, I call it a service berry. I don't know what it is, but it's just loaded with buds for blooming. So these have a high vitamin C taste to them, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's about all for now. This has been a handy redneck, and I'll talk to you later.